I met her right out of high school. We went to the same military college, and she has just always been like this kick butt, take names, just amazing woman that just makes you just want to be better and do better. I remember like y'all used to tell me like, Carrie, stop going to capital cities and I was always at the capital cities just out here living my best life.
Intro is amazing.
I met her right out of high school. We went to the same military college, and she has just always been like this kick butt, take names, just amazing woman that just makes you just want to be better and do better. I'm just so excited to have her on. Thank you so much for being here, Wendi, Wray. I'm just so excited. Thank you so much for being here. Like, oh my gosh, there's so much amazing stuff that you have about you. Literally, like the military career, the marathons, the being a mom, like, oh, all the things.
Carrie, thank you so much. And by the way, your intro is amazing. And thank you for being so kind and saying it that way. About me, because like you said, I think we both met one another when we really didn't know what was happening. But I mean, let's face it, we were only 18. So
yeah,
I think it was completely okay. Now that we look back, we're like, oh my gosh, we're two different people.
I know. I was like, what was I doing? Like, I'm just all. Yeah. I remember like y'all used to tell me like, Carrie, stop going to capital cities and I was always at the capital cities just out here living my best life. And I was like, now.
Well, in that moment, you were living your best life, right?
I was definitely living my best life.
And now when you look back, you're like, what was I doing? Why was I not sleeping?
Especially me getting up at 5 o'clock every morning and I'm out until 2 o'clock. Oh man, ridiculousness.
Exactly. But thank you so much for inviting me. It's really an honor to be asked to participate in your podcast. So thank you again so much. And I'm excited. Let's get to chatting.
Yes, like so just tell us more about you. Tell us like, so we know that like you were in the military, you were an officer in the military. What made you make that shift to get out the military and actually go into the crazy world of entrepreneurship?
Yeah, so I didn't, right? So I want to say that I had like I don't want to say a switch, but I had this like epiphany and I made a decision. Well, first I asked my husband if he was okay with it, right? Because we
love him
since we met. And yes, you know him. So since the very beginning, right? As even when we were dating, I mean, we both had an income. So we were always, we had very similar goals in regards to, getting promoted and joining the military and, living happily ever after and making military a career.
Couple. They were like the cutest couple. Like when I first saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, they're gonna be married, and I'm just gonna love every minute of it. Like not even knowing this. I was like, because she used to get mad at you, like, Carrie, stop. I was like, y'all are gonna get married. Like I see it.
I remember you always used to tell me that, like the first time. I didn't want to tell anyone, but I remember telling you and Martha and Gabby, and I'm like, I don't know if this is going to be temporary or we're just kind of, getting to know each other because we're both from different backgrounds, right? And you were right. You were right from the very beginning. So we were both very driven with our next step, what's going to be next for us. And we just want to keep doing, bigger and more like courageous things. So the reason I'm saying all of this is because he never thought that I would just say, okay, I'm going to just not have a secure income and I'm going to try this thing out, right? Like, let's try coaching remotely. Like, at first, before COVID, the Zoom thing was like, well, how does that work? And, what do you mean you're going to meet people through a camera? So, it was very, very new. And I actually started late last year, and actually a year this month. And it was still kind of like, okay, is she okay? I don't know if she really, made a plan. And I really didn't, right? It was the only plan that I had was to not give in to all the failure, because that's what we typically do, right? When something doesn't work out, like the first month or month 6, it's like, okay, maybe I should go get a job, or maybe I should really consider a real career, right? So it was different for everyone in my family, minus my dad, because he's always been kind of like an own entrepreneur, within himself. And my uncles have been they have that entrepreneurial mindset. But on the other side, my husband's family, they're like, what do you mean? What is coaching? And what is a life coach? And again, with the Zoom thing, right? So, so yeah, but you know what's so interesting, Carrie? Everything that I was pretty much, I was like really excited and, ready to go and coach. I never once thought about the whole like branding aspect. Like, I knew about it, and I was like, oh, that's no big deal. I'll just put something together. Yeah.
I just throw something together.
I'll put some colors together. It's no big deal. It's more than that, right? It's not just that.
And it's funny because like what you said really resonated with me, because I was the one that was a little scared. So we started the business in July of last year. But literally I still was working my full-time job. So I was like, I'm going to get this full-time check. I'm going to do this on the side. I'm going to keep getting this full-time check. And it's like, I really felt that like God kind of came in and was like, no, Carrie, you need to do this, because literally like in February, it was like a kind of like a force, because I was working for Subway Corporate, and they actually did a reduction, and they like laid off about like 30 people at one time, and I was one of the 30 people that got laid off.
Wow.
And it was crazy, and it was so crazy because it was right after I got back from FHL, and so I was like on this huge high, like we had just closed all these clients, and I'm just like, and I called my husband, and I called him crying. I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe this. And he's like, why are you stressed out? And I'm like, because I don't have, he was like, but you have a business. He was like, you just closed clients like a couple of days ago. And I'm like, okay, I can do it. I might be able to try. And I had to like, it was like one of those things where it was like, I was so scared of that failure that I was like, could this really be something that I can do? And then the moment what you said of where I was like, I can't live there, I'm gonna push 110% forward. It seemed like everything just like changed like a little. It was like a switch. What you said was like a switch, and like you just had to make it happen.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is, right? Because it's either the way I see it is you have like this optional challenge, and then you have this forced challenge, right? And like for you, it was like a force, right? It was like, okay, I'm laid off now. So it's not like I said, hey, corporate job, I'm leaving, right? For you, it was more of like, okay, now I'm here. But if I really look back, I just closed on, several clients here. So now you're like, okay, that kind of pushed you to, or for that switch to click on. And for me, it was more of an option, but it was like I did it backwards, right? Like I wish, they would have said, Wendy, you can no longer work here, because then I would have been like, oh my gosh, it's not my fault. I didn't plan this and yada, 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 right? But I mean, I think every single person that takes that leap into, having your own business or entrepreneurship, then there isn't like a one way, for all. Every single person has their own journey. And I think that is what a lot of us don't see at the very beginning, because we're like, we went to FHL and now we've got it. We know we have the formula, right?
Yeah, we have all the things.
We have all the things. But, you and the other thousands of people that went there are going to have completely different journeys.
Oh my gosh, like that. And it's like, it's so funny. Like, it's literally so funny because like when I was there, and so my coach, the coach I was having back then, like I was sitting in the back with a group of women, and they're amazing women. Like we were hanging out, we were talking, and she was like, Carrie, like I really want you to sit in the front with me. So I moved to the front, and that's where I met like Lindsay and Beth. Like literally, that's where I met everybody when I moved. And then I looked back and I talked to the people that I met, and then when we were sitting in the back, and they're still doing the exact same thing because what they caught wasn't the same thing. Like they just took in the information and they held it. Everybody that what I was talking to at the front, like they were taking the pieces and they were running with it. And it's like right when I met them, they made me want to run with it. I was like, oh well, I need to, instead of me writing this note down, what is the implementation that I need to set like right now to do it? And it's so crazy because like the journey that people have, like it's like even though you're in the same room, the experiences are completely different, and you're not even knowing that way. Like it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I believe that is the fun way. Like that's what's so fun about having your own business or your own team or really anything that you really take ownership of, because it's not going to be the same, right? I mean, how many of us would want to have, the same stores, the same exact items when we could, like, I mean, think about it now. There's like, I remember there was maybe 10 different brands of toilet paper. Now there's like 100. And so everyone gets to decide which one they want based on what they enjoy about that toilet paper.
Yeah.
And it's
like
the
a
same
whole
way
war
about
in my house.
Yeah. And it's
I'm
the
like,
same
you better
thing
leave my
with
quilted northern.
that is mine.
That's my quilted, exactly. Like my mom and everybody, they're like, oh, let me get my Charlotte. Like, touch my quilted northern, that's the problem. Y'all keep that Charmin going. Don't mess with this quilter.
Yeah. Exactly. But you see how, if, people didn't use a different strategy or different things that they already kind of, are wired with, right? Like for me, just to give you an example, I am not the best with technology, right? So it's one of my weaknesses, but I know that ahead of time. So I know that I'm going to choose a like website, or what do we call it, all-in-one system?
Yeah.
Because it's so much easier for me, right? Like I can work with that. So, I mean, again, everyone's going to have their own choices, preferences. And I think that that's what makes this so much better. And it makes it so much fun for both the business and the client.
And I think about like the fact of like the way the experiences, like even though there's people that they do the same things, the way people address it is so much different. So we can like, for me, it's funny because like we say that we help people increase their presence and visibility. When you hear that, you don't know, like on the top of your head, you wouldn't think it's branding. Like you would be like, well, do they coach and stuff like that? But we do ours through branding. We're solving the same problem, but we're doing it in a completely different way. So it's always interesting to see that process. So my question is, because we just talked about increasing presence and visibility, what do you feel like was the I would say the 3 things that happened that kind of helped you like increase your presence and visibility? Because now I see you everywhere. I see you all over my social media. What was that thing that kind of happened to kind of like help let the algorithm and all the things say, hey, Wendi is here, let's look at her stuff?
Yeah. So you mean like what got me to keep showing up, or like what was my intent for that?
Yeah, like what kind of helped you to keep showing up, and then what was like your intent? Like what was your intent, or what was your intentional actions that you created?
Yeah. So for me, it was more of, okay, getting out of my head, right? Because I think that that's one of the mistakes that we make, especially as coaches, because we are, depending, what kind of coach, but mainly causal coaching. I love to focus on what my clients are thinking, right? Like, what is this, woman in the military thinking now versus a woman that already transitioned out, or this woman that is currently transitioning, right? instead of at the very beginning when I started, it was all about me. It was like, oh my gosh, what are my parents going to think of me? What is my, what are my family? What are my friends? What are my current friends in the military going to think? And it was all about eyes on me, right? And not that I was really doing it on purpose, but it's just our how we're wired as humans, right? We're very
Mm-hmm.
selfish, and not in a negative way, but we lose focus of what we're here to do, and that is to serve, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was the first thing. I had to really shift my mindset. I really had to ask myself, okay, is this really for me, or is it for this woman that really needs to know that she can feel better regardless of what's going on in her life, or
Mm-hmm.
that this woman doesn't have to be completely overwhelmed or anxious because she has the tools readily available, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was like my number one thing that I had to do. The second thing was also understand that there will always be people that are not interested in my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't care who you are. You could be Nike, you could be Apple. There will always be people that are not interested in learning what I have to say, right? Or what I have to share. So that was like step number two, because again, you don't want to fail, right? And most of the people out there want the likes and they want the comments. But for me, again, I had
Mm-hmm.
to ask myself, so is this about me, or is it about putting the information out there and just allowing people to, look, watch it, read it, or, share it, whatever they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, it's not about me and it's all about them. So that was like the second thing I had to do, right? Because again, we don't want to fail and we don't want to not have any engagement. So that was the second thing that I have to do. And then the final thing I want to say that has helped me the most is that, like, every time I'm going to post a video or any post, even if it's like a quick, like what I have to say, like a couple of words, right? Even if it's a picture of words or a phrase or a quote, whatever it may be, I always think about that just one person. If only one person can get something out of this information, that is the only job I have with,
Mm-hmm.
the stuff that I put on social media. Because again, most of what I put on social media comes from either it happened to me yesterday, or it happened to me last week, or it's
Mm-hmm.
happening to me in this moment, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
always very, very, very recent for the most part. And again, I know a lot of the tools, and I know like a lot of what I sometimes think that I can't control and what I can control. So I want to share that with other women, specifically military women, that listen, you may feel out of control of your life, but I want to reassure you that you do have some control, and that is
Mm-hmm.
yourself, right? So that's what I've done, or at least what keeps me going every single day, because it's very easily to say, I don't have time,
Mm-hmm.
or I have so much to do, or let me just focus on my website, something that gets you out of that rhythm, because that's what our minds like to do, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
think that it's very important. And by the way, I love to see your videos, like the content that you put on there, your stories, because it gives me like a push of, okay, Carrie's out there or so and so is out there. You need to be out there too, sharing
Mm-hmm.
information. Because the one thing that I do love about your boss branded is the first thing that I remember hearing, either you said it or it was a post, but it's all about empowering one another,
Yeah.
right? It's yes, I love getting paid for it. Yes, I love getting new clients and taking them from point A to point B. But at the end of the day, if I can empower one woman, regardless of where they're at, like, I feel like I am doing what I am called to be doing on this earth. So,
No, like, oh man, yeah, that's literally what I stand for. So, like, in my head, like, the philosophy that I have in my head about it is if I impact one person, especially because we do branding. So I was like, if I can impact one person and help them get clients, knowing that we work with impact driven entrepreneurs, how many people can they now impact, and how many people can they impact? And then
Right.
what kind of world can we recreate to make it where good people are helping good people? Like, that's
Right.
the world that we're recreating, that just making that impact and doing it consistently and constantly.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that that's, again, what really gets me going, because there are so many women out there. There's so many people out there that need what we have. And you know this, Carrie, 90% of them don't even know that they need it.
Mm-hmm.
Like in their minds, they're like, I don't get that. But yeah, you're right. I think I am suffering from,
Mm-hmm.
emotional suffering or whatever it may be. Right. So
Yeah.
I think that is, I just love what you're doing too. Like, I think that is the, as a woman, from another woman, it's what we continue to need as a culture, as a world, because I mean, it's 2020 and we need more of that. We need to continue
Yeah.
to empower one another.
No, like, oh my gosh. Like, that's literally, like, I love that we're literally speaking the same language. You're speaking my love language right now. Um, so I know you talked about, we talked about earlier, you were saying that, like, you didn't really know about branding and you kind of thought you could put stuff together. Like, so once you kind of realized that putting stuff together might not be the best option, like, what were those steps that you took?
Yeah. So at first, when I went through my coaching certification, they gave us a 6 month kind of how to be an entrepreneur type of thing, right? Which
Mm-hmm.
was an amazing opportunity for me to really, learn more. It was kind of like a little mini degree, right? Like a mini
Yeah.
degree and, an MBA, but it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
that. And actually, I thought it was actually a lot more beneficial than my 4 year degree.
Mm-hmm.
But this is what because mainly it's marketing and sales, right? Like they're
Mm-hmm.
both under one umbrella and branding is somewhere in between. But
Yeah.
what I realized that with branding, it's not just colors and fonts and, cute images and, some nice words that you can put together and everyone's like, oh my gosh, I get it. It's more of you showing up in that way for people, right? Like, how do I want to show up, regardless if I don't have the colors, regardless if I don't have the beautiful website? And I think what I'm just so grateful that you and we started chatting on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I tell you, I had a logo, somewhat of a logo, and then I was like, I'm really not feeling it. And, but, it was done professionally. And, I kept going back and forth, like, who am I to judge this professional? But it was just something that I loved, but I felt like it wasn't mine. Like, I felt like it
Yeah.
wasn't Wendi, right? It
Yeah.
was more like on the fancy, fancy side. And I don't consider myself the fancy person, right? So I got introduced to Canva, and then you and I started talking, and you said, well, I have these like templates. All you have to do is, put it into Canva. And I'm like, that sounds amazing. Like, I can't put colors together, and that's something that you already have done. So let's try it, right? And when I tell you that completely changed my, not only like the workbooks that I do or like my freebies, but it really gave me this sense of I can actually focus on what I am good at, right? Which is the content, like what I want in my workbooks, because now I have something that Carrie, gave me that is already there. It's beautiful. I like it. I love it. I'm going to run with it. But now all I need to do is create what I'm good at. And that
Mm-hmm.
is the information that I want my clients to get,
Mm-hmm.
or the freebies that I want women to get, right? And I think that for me, it all was I had to really make an assessment on, okay, am I really going to sit here and get overwhelmed over some colors when I can really just go on a website, one of your website, check out the ones I liked, hit the checkout button, and within minutes I had an entire gallery of, worksheets, workbooks, slides. I mean, everything, right? You literally saved me days of work with the whole color stuff, because now I had an idea on where I wanted to go, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then with that, again, I kept looking at your stuff, how you're showing up based on what you're putting out, right? So then I kind of just mirrored that with my own, like with my niche, with my coaching, and, focusing on military women, because they want to see, and I may not be speaking maybe on your clients, but for the most part, as women that are like, dress right dress, and, everything is pretty organized, and everything needs to look good. I think for them, it's like, okay, she has something that looks professional. She has something that is actually what I want, right? Something that's easy to read, easy to, to observe. And I think that for me, it was understanding that there are things I'm not good at, and then there's things that I want to put out there that I am good at, right? So I think, and I hope I'm answering your question here, I think the biggest thing for me was realizing that I need to stay in my lane for the most part. Also allow people like yourself, when you're putting information, your videos, or any freebies that you have, to really get with you and consult with you, like, hey, Carrie, I'm doing this, or, what do you think? Or is this something that is it something that's me, or is it something that other women would be able to get quickly, or are they going to be attracted to this? Because at the end of the day, everything that I have is pretty much already done, right?
Yeah. No, and it's crazy because like when we came up, so when we created back then, it's funny, it's not even a year. So before it was Box and Branded, but then we just changed it to Boss and Branded, because it's all about the idea of Boss is building one spectacular successes, and we were like, we want to help people build their own spectacular successes through branding. We want them to be able to build those success through branding. So like when we created it, that was the philosophy, to give people everything they needed to where they felt so solidified in their business that they didn't have to have the guesswork. They could just be able to go in there, create the stuff they created, and then be able to actually run their business and do what they're really good at. Because when you're like, the blank canvas for somebody who's not a creative is probably the most stressful thing in the world. Like, you're just like it's depressing, because I know that's how I am with writing. I'm like, with writing, I'm like, it keeps coming to give me a template. Where's something like, just give me a start off, like, because I'm not a writer. So like, it's so, oh my gosh, it's so true. Like, I'm so happy that you enjoyed it though. Like, because when I first saw it, I was like, she's using the templates.
Yeah, because now I didn't have to worry about, oh wait, I need a story cover, I need Facebook cover, or, because like you said, it's now freeing my mind to just focus on what I want to focus, and run with it, right? And again, it may not be something that I could tell my clients, yeah, I created the whole workbook, but the content I did create, right? I mean, it's not like they're saying, well, Wendy, did you really consider these colors, right? Like, was this your idea? But at the end of the day, I want to say that that's how, when you're in community, when you're empowering one another, like you said, building your own spectacular successes. I mean, you want to get a little bit of whatever you're not good at elsewhere, so that you can focus on what you want to focus, and what your clients and other women are expecting of you.
And it's crazy because like one thing that you said, and you said that you knew that your clients, they had a certain perception that they were looking for. And I feel like a lot of times businesses forget that. So a lot of times what happens with businesses is they create stuff based on what they like. They're like, well, this is what I like, so I'm going to create this because like this is amazing. And then their clients are like, no, I don't like it. And then they wonder why they're not getting the clients that they're expecting. And it's because their brand is not speaking the language to their client. And I tell people, literally, branding is your message. Like how are you communicating with people? Like, is your message seeped into everything that you do? Is the way that you is your colors, is your fonts, is all of that stuff communicating that language of your brand message to your clients? And that's why I always tell my clients, when we do it, we always solidify who do you serve really, really hard and really, really deep. And then we go into messaging. And then after we really solidify that, we go to visuals. Because if you don't understand those pieces, when we start segueing things in, it's not gonna relate, and then they're not gonna communicate.
Right.
So no, that's amazing. So my next question is, so you did your branding, you got the templates, you start showing up. Like what was like, was it something that like, was it like an immediate switch that kind of popped on and people were like, oh, Wendi, where you, I see you, girl. Yeah. Like what because all of a sudden, like for me, I know, like I just saw you everywhere. Like all of a sudden I just saw you everywhere. I was like, she's doing Facebook Live, she's doing challenges, she's doing webinars, she's doing everything. Like what, like I was like,
so, it's so funny you say that, because my first webinar, no one showed up, right? And this was before I talked to you. I think you and I spoke, I want to say like October, November. I don't know it was like around this time frame. And I did my first webinar. I want to say it was July. And it was like July, August. And again, I had no colors. I didn't have, I didn't know. I knew what to say, kind of, sort of, on Facebook and Instagram, but I didn't have the professional, like you said, like my brand wasn't speaking to anyone because I didn't really have one, right? And at first I was okay with it because I'm like, oh, it's my first one, no big deal, right? Then I did another one and I was like, okay, 3 people registered, but no one showed up. So something's not working here. And so when I did, after, I got the templates from you, I did do another one. I want to say it was February or March, around around that time frame. And so what I did, and actually it was a Facebook Live. It was like it was a webinar / Facebook Live. It was like, simultaneously. So I had more people showing up. And now people are actually showing up to my webinars, right? Because like you said, I'm showing up in different areas or different platforms, and I'm showing up more frequently, and I'm putting my actual content out there in a professional manner. The kind of like you mentioned, I think, I'm pretty sure it was you that right before our spring event, you said, you can do this on Canva, a video thing. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. So I did that. And I tell you, Carrie, like a lot of people love visuals. Like that's what they want. They want to see something that will help them to take action into registering and actually attending. So long story short, this past webinar, I had a 60% attending rate, which, typically for webinars are like 30, 40, but this was over 50%. And I'm like, wow, like I'm just so excited that they're here, right? And that they're going to hear me. And by the way, again, my slides were already pretty much done. All I had to do was put the information on there and I was ready to go, right? But I think for me, or for the people, my people that I serve, it's all about, oh, Wendi looks like she knows what she's saying because she planned ahead of time. It's not something that's just like a sticky note or a one, flyer that is completely plain or anything like that, right? So I think that people kind of I know they like that, but they are more, they're going to take action based on what you show them.
No, man, like that really makes me feel good to know, like you increase your webinars, like that in itself. Like I know how stressful that is. That's why I won't, like, it's not gonna lie, like I was like, I don't know if I ever do a webinar. I was like, it's too scary. And then I don't like writing, so I'm like I gotta write all these stuff for these slides. even so, like we have a Canva workshop. We're doing it on the 15th, 18th, and 22nd. And literally, like I was talking to the team, like when we did it, I was like, I got to create some slides for the Canva workshop. And then like, so I was like procrastinating because like I was like, and then my project manager, she was like, Kira, you really don't need slides. Like you just need like a welcome. I was like, oh yeah. what else do we it was just like this pressure just like came off of me.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I got these slides. What am I going to write? Because I just be like, oh, blank. I need templates I need everybody's template. If anybody has templates for some slide decks for service providers, just come send them my way, because I just get stressed out just thinking about all of the writing. But no, it's so funny. Like, no, that's amazing. Like, that's amazing. Oh my gosh. So what? Like, so you have, when's your next webinar?
So I don't have one scheduled yet.
Okay.
But I do have one. The one that I just hosted recently is on my website. Okay. But right now, thinking sometime before Christmas. And this is why, because of, the podcast that I have coming out and my program or course per se, because I have a program now, but it's going to be my mini course that I will be putting out in December. So I'm looking at dates now, and December's always, when everyone is in holiday season. Yeah. So now it's what I have in mind is collaborating with someone else, but depending on where she's at, I may just have to go solo, because again, when you collaborate with, and this with anything, you get more participation. So, so yeah, that's where I'm at now. So I don't have an actual date, but I am working on possibly collaborating. If not, then I'll just go solo and just, slap a date on there.
Oh man. So you said something really special. She glossed over it, guys. I hope you noticed that. She said she has a podcast coming out. So let's tell us about this podcast. Like, what is this podcast going to be?
Yeah. So you said when it's going to be available or about?
Yeah, what's it going to be about? Like, what? Like, give us a breakdown. Yeah. Give us a name. Tell us all the things.
So I don't want to give you too much, Carrie. No, I'm kidding. So right now it's going to be coaching for military women with Wendi Wray. And what it's all going to be about, first I want to say that it's going to be a podcast that you want to listen to, because the whole purpose of it is for me to give you like a little push throughout your day, your week, your month, depending on when you can hear it. But I like the way I envisioned it, because that's like the first thing I do. I'm a visual person. Is when I first heard about a podcast, this was in 2017. I had never heard about a podcast until 2017. And I remember one of my friends, she was in the military with me. She said, yeah, you need to listen to this podcast. I was like, what is a podcast? Like, why do I need to listen to this? Right? She's like, oh, you need to listen to this podcast. It's yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And then one day I was not feeling myself. It was snowing. Carrie, so I was at Fort Drum. When I tell you it was snowing, like 5 feet of snow. Like it was snowing. Man. And I'm driving to work at like 5 a.m, completely like dark. And then the snow was everywhere. And I'm driving like 15 miles an hour. And so instead of a 20-minute drive, it was like a 40-minute drive. And I remember right then and there, and I was like, I don't want to listen to music, and I don't want to listen to the radio. Like, let me listen to a podcast. And the first thing I put on there was Tony Robbins, because that was the podcast that she recommended. And so that came up, and I started listening, and I was hooked since then.
Man, okay. So now we're gonna ask some questions. So like, I know you said Tony Robbins was like, so what would you say like right now are like your top 3?
Oh podcasts? My gosh, so many. It's crazy. It's so embarrassing.
I'm the same way. Like I'm like give it to me. Like
so how like everything is categories, right? So for me, So the top three. So I always listen to the life coach school because that's where I was certified. Every
Mm-hmm.
Thursday, I am there, right? Like as soon as it drops, I'm like, what's it about today,
Get
right?
get that alert pop up like ding ding.
Yeah, right. That one. And I love listening. I can't, well, with her, the other one that I love listening to is Making Money with Stacey Bateman.
Okay.
And, or Make Money as a Life Coach with Stacey Bateman. That's what it's called. I can only listen to her when I'm in a certain mood, right? Because
Mm,
if I'm not feeling good, I mean like good as in I want to get to work, then
yeah.
I'm not going to listen to her. So like weekends, I can't listen to her because I'm like, I'm not trying to listen to, I'm not trying to
You're
get the
not gonna make me. You're not gonna push me now. I am
right.
off.
Yeah. But like on the weekends, I love listening to Grit Happens, or I'm also now listening to the School of Greatness.
Mm,
What is his name? I can't remember the host's name, but I can send that to you. The School of Greatness, just because it just helps me, like it gives me like a push, but I'm not like I'm not
mm.
feeling obligated to go and actually go do a sales page or something crazy like that,
Oh
right?
man.
But
Oh,
those are like my top three.
I would say for so of course me like I'm like I am like crazy like I go nuts about like anything marketing like it just like feeds my like I can listen to it like 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm just like, oh, this is so good. I'm like, notepad, action. Like I get so
Yeah.
excited.
So do you
So
listen to Amy Porterfield?
yes, I listen to Amy Porterfield.
Oh yes.
I would say my top three. It definitely has to be Momentum by Alex Sharfton. Like he just makes me feel
Mm.
like I can just do all things. Like I just feel like I can like soar across the seas. I can like deliver babies and run a 7-figure-year business. Like I feel like I just do all things like reading his. I would
And make
definitely
Thanksgiving dinners.
yeah, and make while I'm delivering the baby, like I'm gonna be like chefing it up. Um, I would say that I would definitely say Hirsch Marketing with Emily Hirsch. Later, like it's funny
Oh
because I
yes.
don't run ads, but the way she layers her stuff out is just so
Yes.
like I've been listening to her stuff like for like six. Actually, I have. I've like listened to her stuff for like hours, like 8 hours straight. Like just me and her, like me and Emily, and I'm like catching up on her life. I love how she always just tells me like what she's doing, and she was like, I just want to. I was like, you're talking to me,
Yeah.
so her and definitely Jenna Kutcher with the Gold Diggers.
Yes. Yeah. See,
Yeah,
I love her too. Yeah. And you see, like how you explain that, I want, like, that's my dream for women like that are driving to work at 5 in the morning. Like, wow, like it's 5 in the morning and I feel like you said, I can like source seeds and deliver babies and have
yeah.
Thanksgiving dinners ready every day. Like that's how I want them to feel. So I think like for me, it's I've been um kind of not, I don't want to say pushing, but making it the goal without an actual date. So, for
Mm-hmm.
example, you know how we get, and this is my life coaching in me, right? So, we always have goals, right? And we always put deadlines, and it's a beautiful thing, right? Like that's what keeps us accountable, right? But I think that many of us will then give up on the goal because the date now is approaching, if not
It's so
past due.
fast.
Yeah.
It's so fast.
And
You're
then,
like,
yeah, yeah. And now they're like, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't do it. Or maybe this isn't for me, right? So like the way in April, I told myself, I'm going to work on this podcast and the goal is to have it out before December 31st. But this is what I've been telling or been reminding myself of, right? Like I can't continue to attach myself to this goal, right? Like I want to be unattached so that I can produce from a space of like not only confidence, but from a feeling of just like determination and
mm-hmm.
just like a positive feeling versus producing something out of like urgency and, like just something that needs to be rushed. And that's what I don't want my listeners to hear, right? Like, I don't want it to be rushed. I want it to be in a way where they're like, oh my gosh, I can't wait for Wendi to, come say hi to me again next week.
And it's so funny that you said that, because like I think around the time that you said you were going to do mine is when I told my team, I was like, okay, so we're going to do a podcast, and they all looked at me like, really, Carrie? And I'm like, yeah. I was like, I have these great. I was like, it's going to be great. Like, we're going to lay it all out. And they're like, Carrie, you have way too much going on. Like, do you really want to add a podcast? I'm like, yeah, we're going to do it. It's going to be great. And then they were like, oh no, it's going to be a mess. And literally, like, we said, like, I told them, I was like, we're gonna release it August. We're gonna release it August 1st, and then like it didn't get released. And I was like, September 1st didn't get released, and I was like, okay, so I was like, it has to come out in October. So we like finally pushed it out in October, and the thing is, like, for me, I definitely felt like I was overthinking it, because I was like, I want everything, because we're so visual, our business is so visual. I'm like, we need to make sure this is great. This has to be great. This has to be together. I need to make sure. I was like, do I want to do it video? Do I want to do it audio? And I was like, and then what I realized for us is I felt like, at least for right now, the video is better, because I'm actually able to, like, if I want to show you guys stuff, I can show you guys. Y'all can see my faces, and I feel like that creates a connection. I feel that, like, for us right now, video is stronger. Do I want to move to audio? Of course, I definitely would need to start. Maybe like I'll definitely have to think about the way I draft out the content. But I felt for me, especially for me, because like when it came to our content, I felt like the one thing was missing was like me. So like, and it's funny because I remember you were like, Carrie, like, I didn't even know it was you on this Instagram, because she's like, I always saw this stuff come up, but I didn't know it was you until like you posted your picture.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Because all I would see was your name, and I don't even think you didn't have like your full name on there. You had something else. And I would only see things, like you said, there was like other images or just words, that you had, but I didn't know it was you until now. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, Carrie, she looks so pretty there, and oh my gosh, that, everything. But yeah, and I think that's with you doing the whole video aspect, the video platform, I think that, I'm telling you, people love videos, and I love videos, right? When it comes to, podcast, if I'm on my computer, and like, for example, Marie Forleo, she's great at doing this. She has both. Like, she'll do the video on YouTube or on her site, and I could also listen to it on, on podcast. But like, I want to see her in the guest speaker, right? Like, I want to see that. So I think that this is just amazing. Like, I'm pretty sure you can still, do the audio or connect it to the audio platform with, video.
And then exactly, and that's what me and my team were talking about, because we were like, and that's actually the person who does our podcast edits. She was like, Carrie, we can just rip the audio. And I was like, well, great, cool, that's what we'll do. And then like I just got super excited, and like I kind of was like, okay, I feel comfortable, I feel ready to start bringing on guests. So then like now we're bringing on guests, and I think for me it's more exciting because I'm able to like to have the conversations, crack the jokes, and do stuff, because I think I'm funny, but like me being funny with myself is sometimes like a little weird. So it's like me being funny with other people kind of like works out a little bit better.
And I think that this is a beautiful thing you're doing, because again, right, people want to know why branding, or why should I really care about branding? Because again, until I talked to you, I didn't know I needed it. Like, I mean, I'm like, okay, I know I need colors, but it's not that big of a deal. But then you showed up and you're like, no, like, I actually have something that's going to make your life easier. And I'm like, oh yes, like, you just literally saved me days of putting a workbook together, of putting slides together, and just, covers on Instagram, like stories. It's there.
Your IGTV covers are real cute.
Thank
and
you.
It's fun. It's funny.
Come from all of your, you're the foundation of it.
Oh yeah. No, and it's really funny because it's like, I think a lot of times when it comes to presence, and it comes like one thing that we tell our clients is like, you want to be a resource and you want to be an expert. And the thing is, what we were doing when we first started, we were just resources. We were just giving out valuable information. But what my team and like my clients and my coaches kept saying is like, Carrie, if you step in front of the camera and you're actually able to like explain to them why these things are important, now you're showing up as an expert, because we all know you're an expert, but social media doesn't know you're expert because you're not sharing it with them. Because your
Right.
clients know you're expert and they're like, oh my gosh, Carrie's so smart, but I wasn't pushing it out to the crowd. So that was like for me the biggest thing. And that's why I keep saying, I was like, hey, you know, I'm on a mission, because like I know that this is one of the things that I struggle with, is like just getting out there, putting my voice out there and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Oh,
Yeah, and I
love
love
it.
the reels videos that you're making too. So keep it coming.
I know, it's funny. My niece, she's like, Auntie, I can't believe it. You're a TikToker.
Like, believe it, believe it.
Okay, so my last question is, where would you be? Where would your business? Where would you be in your life and your business? With presence, without presence, like, or what has presence done for your business and your life?
So I think life, let's start with life first, because it has helped me come out of my shell. As a person, and you may remember this, I am not I am very social, but at the same time, I am very, like, I have to be to myself for a certain amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I don't, I just don't feel like myself. So I'm kind of going through this whole imposter syndrome, right? Like, wait, why am I saying this? And I don't even feel that way, right? So I think
Mm-hmm.
for me, the first time, obviously, right, it was like, oh my gosh, like 30 seconds it felt like five hours, right? But the more I did it and the more I could actually share, and people would be like, oh my gosh, I needed to hear that today. Thank you. It really helped me come out of this, Wendy show and being like robotic, because that's just how I got used to being, and not showing a lot of emotion. So now I'm like you said, like I'll just laugh, like, oh yeah, ha ha ha, on my Instagram stories, or whatever I'm putting, whatever video, because now I'm like, it's okay. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if people don't like it, they're going to keep swiping. If people don't want to see it, they're just not going to click on my stories. So
Mm-hmm.
that's how it changed me, like in my life, right? Like as a person, and in my business, it's now like people want to know. Like, it's so crazy, Carrie. Like, I think I went, and by the way, I'm doing it this week too. I'm kind of taking like a stories break, because I'm really focused on my podcast and on my mini course. So I told myself on Sunday, I'm like, listen, Wendy, you're just going to have to stay put and not focus on stories. You can still post on feed. And I did that 2 months ago. I literally, like, from Sunday to next Sunday, I was completely out. And like a couple people reached out to me, like Wednesday and Thursday. They're like, is everything, how are you doing? Is everything okay? And I'm like, yeah,
Oh,
everything's
love
great.
it.
And I'm like, why? Like, I was a little concerned. Did someone hack my account? They're like, oh, I just haven't seen you on stories, and I just wanted to make sure that everything's well. And I just,
Oh,
miss your like videos. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like it really made my day. But again, it's like some people are actually interested on what I have to put out, like, oh, that's how you stop judging yourself.
mm-hmm.
Oh, that's how you can take care of always wanting to be in charge, right? Because
Oh,
they get that from that. And I think that that's really how it has impacted both me as a person and my business, because that's how I get consults, and that's how I get to
mm-hmm.
meet new people. And yeah, even if they're not in the military, they say that it's helpful, and that that's what they needed to hear. And for me, like, that just makes my heart really warm and fuzzy, and and yeah, so
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Like, it's funny, like you were like, Wendy,
yeah.
don't go ghost on us. We
Yeah,
need it. So where can
yeah.
everybody find you? Like, where can we find you on social media? Like social media. Like, give us all
Yeah,
your
yeah,
things, and
yeah.
I'll make sure I link everything too.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, so they can find me. My Instagram is at Wendy Wray, Facebook also at Wendy Wray, but I do have a page for military. If you do have any military women followers or veteran women, it's at Wendy Ray at Beyond Her Military Uniform, and also on my website. Well, LinkedIn. I do have a LinkedIn under LinkedIn / Wendy Ray, and also my website, wendyray.com.
Oh, love it. And I'm not gonna lie, I feel like the Ray just kind of, I feel like it was a perfect name to your name. Like I just felt like it
I
just
know. You're so funny, Carrie, because I forgot that you did say that we were going to end up married. And that is so true. I kept saying, no, Carrie, like, please, I'm only 19.
like please stop saying
Chill. Yeah.
stop saying that, Carrie. That's what I was scared of you. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay, Wendy, don't make me.
You're like, that's fine. No, but I mean, I'm telling you, like you and I, it was you, me, Martha, and Gabby. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember Gabby would always say, well, here's Thomas again, not doing what I told her to do. And then and then I'd be like, Carrie, like, what's going on? Like,
Like
we
you
would
always be
have
like,
this connection.
yeah, you'd be like, Carrie, come on, like
I was like the middle person.
you were like, just do it. Like I'll help you. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't want to do it. I was out all night.
Yeah. I'm like, you were out until 2 in the morning.
Y'all waking up from refreshing nap, like, all right, let's go. And I'm like,
Yeah, so I was always like the mediator. I'm like, Drill Sergeant Cha and Carrie, you got to get it together. And it was just like this bond, like at first sight. So it was good times. And like I said, I think I know for me at least, when I look back, I'm like, man, like who was I and how did I make it here, right? But I'm just so grateful for you, and I've seen you grow so much. Like it's crazy, and I love it because this is what life is all about, growing.
mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. Wendy, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being a part of the Boston Branded podcast. It literally means the world to me. Guys, please make sure you follow her on all her social media platforms. Make sure that if you know anybody who's in the military, even if you're not in the military, she can literally help anybody. So just like, please just make sure you tap in, you learn more about her, and you just really just let her serve you. All right,
Thank you
guys,
so
thank you
much,
so much.
Carrie.
Have an
Thank you
amazing day. I'll talk
guys.
to you guys later.